You're going to want to bring the tissue box for this one because you all are not ready for how emotionally devastating this film is. My thoughts on Beautiful Boy coming up. What is up, everyone, and welcome to Men vs. Movies. I'm Griffin, as always, and if this is your first time checking out one of our videos, consider hitting that subscribe button where we take on the best and worst of cinema on a weekly basis. Beautiful Boy is a film by Belgian filmmaker Felix van Groeningen, and it stars Steve Carell, Timothee Chalamet, Amy Ryan, and Maura Tierney. Based on the pair of best-selling memoirs from father and son, Nic and David Sheff, the film chronicles Nic's struggle with addiction to crystal meth. As David attempts to empathize with Nic's situation, both scientifically and psychologically, Nic goes through a cycle of rehab, then relapse, then repeat that ultimately drags his family into further devastation. So, coming from someone who's not necessarily accustomed to crying during films, Beautiful Boy had me in absolute tears by the end, and it emotionally affected me far after I had left the theater in a way that I hadn't experienced in quite some time. Director Felix van Groeningen seriously should be commended here because he not only opens up the conversation regarding drug abuse, which is a very sensitive topic, I might add, but he reveals the raw and unfiltered truth of what it's like to struggle with addiction. There is no sugarcoating or happy endings here. It's all brutal honesty about the destructive nature these addictions can have on not only the person involved, but the people who surround them as well. And even when things seem as though they might be going straight, the slightest of deviations can have the most disastrous effects. And if any of you out there remotely have a heart, by the time the credits have started rolling, you're gonna feel it. Groeningen has delivered an absolute resounding gut punch that is sure to resonate with many audience members, especially those who have been affected or know people who have been affected by substance abuse. Groeningen should, without a doubt, be commended on his decision to focus on realism, much like what Kenneth Lonergan did with Manchester by the Sea, but Boy is truly carried by its performances in Steve Carell and Timothee Chalamet. They are what take this film to the next level and bring that extra layer of realism to the table. Both performances are easily some of the best of the year and should earn themselves places among the nominees come award season. Let's start with Carell because everyone's going to be talking about Chalamet, and rightfully so, but Carell really shines here. He plays it subtle, much like what Casey Affleck did in Manchester by the Sea, but in such a genuine fatherly manner. He goes to the ends of the earth like any parent would in order to help his child recover, but he also has to cope with the fact that he can only do so much, and in the end, it's on his son. This difficult truth is depicted in arguably the most devastating scene in the film, in which Carell has a conversation over the phone with Chalamet's character, and he breaks down in such raw, honest emotion. You could truly feel Carell's heart breaking in that moment, and that's one of many scenes that really pushed me over the edge and caused me to tear up quite a bit. And once again, the reason is because it's so honest, and I don't think Carell will get enough credit for that. I think a lot of people will say, oh, it just kind of seems like he's rather flat. I don't think that's the case. He's playing this real-life father going through these unfathomable circumstances. And truthfully, for me, it might be Carell's best performance. As for Chalamet, I mean, the kid is continuously proving himself to be a world-class talent, and only being at such a young age, I can't even fathom as to how great he's going to be 10 years down the road. He completely immerses himself in the mannerisms and mindset of a drug addict in this heartbreaking performance. From his every desperate twitch, to his paranoid demeanor, to his rapidly violent mood swings, every ounce of Chalamet's performance is felt by the audience, and we're left watching Nic Sheff spiral down a black hole. And watching him go through this tragic roller coaster in an attempt at recovery is both inspiring yet incredibly difficult to watch at times. This fluctuation of emotions falls entirely on the shoulders of Timothee Chalamet, who convincingly excels. And while individually both Carell and Chalamet are terrific, it's their dynamic together that ultimately sells the bond between father and son. Through the skillful weaving of both past and present moments, we see both the good and bad times for the Sheffs, and further adds to the overall impact of Nic traveling down this dark path. The palpable relationship between David and Nic is relatable, real, and the ultimate crux of the story held brilliantly in place by Steve Carell and Timothee Chalamet's exceptional performances. As I've said many times before, this is a film that moved me to tears, and it's one of the most emotionally invested theater-going experiences I've had in quite some time. It stuck with me for days after I saw the film, and I'm sure it's going to stick with plenty of you all. An emotional hurdle to get over, but by far one of the best films of the year. And now I want to hear from you all. I want to know what your favorite real-life tissue box drama is, if that makes any sense. You know, the films that make you tear up and get you so emotionally worked up that you just can't help but cry. I don't know. If that makes any sense, let me know what your favorite one of those is down in the comments section below. While you're down there, be sure to take a second and like this video, share it with all of your friends, and subscribe to the Men vs. Movies YouTube channel, where we take on the best and worst of cinema on a weekly basis. And for all of the reasons I've mentioned throughout my review, I'm ultimately going to be giving Beautiful Boy Supercharged. We recently started an awards season podcast called The Frontrunners. If you're into films like this and other Oscar-y type movies, you're definitely going to want to check that out. We're going to have new episodes every Sunday. You can like Men vs. Movies on Facebook and follow us on Twitter simply by searching Men vs. Movies. And lastly, guys, if you like me specifically and you like what I have to say, you can always give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. All right, that'll do it for this review, guys. And until next time, take care.